Karen's voice could wake a coma patient. "That's my land. You thief," she bellowed, her chins wobbling like a turkey's waddle as she jabbed a meaty finger at my new gate. The absurdity of her claim hit me like a bad sitcom. Here was a woman who'd probably argue the sky was purple if it suited her ego. But this wasn't just Karen being Karen. This was war over a strip of dirt she swore belonged to the HOA. And I was the fool who dared to fence it in. It all started 3 months ago when I moved into 27 Maple Drive, a modest 2-story house in a quiet cul-de-sac. The place came with a decent backyard, perfect for my dog, Rusty, to chase his tail without trampling anyone's petunias. The only problem? A vague property line that the HOA, led by the indomitable Karen, seemed to think gave them divine right over my grass. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, was a walking stereotype, loud, entitled, and built like she'd never met a buffet she didn't conquer. Her daily patrols, clipboard in hand, were the stuff of legend no one wanted to be part of. The trouble began when I decided to install a gate. My backyard sloped down to a narrow strip of land, about 6 feet wide, that ran along the edge of the neighborhood's common area. I'd checked the deed, had a surveyor out, and confirmed that strip was mine. The gate was a simple metal affair. Nothing fancy, just enough to keep Rusty from wandering into the HOA's precious community garden. I thought it was a done deal. Karen, apparently, thought otherwise. The morning after the gate went up, I was sipping coffee on my porch when I heard her. That voice shrill, like a kettle left on too long, cut through the morning calm. "You've got some nerve. Stealing HOA property," she roared, storming across my lawn with 2 neighbors trailing like reluctant minions. One was Mrs. Jenkins, a sweet retiree who looked mortified, and the other was Dave, a guy who always seemed one smirk away from starting trouble. Karen planted herself in front of my gate, hands on hips, her floral muumuu flapping like a battle flag. "Karen," I said, keeping my tone even, "this is my land. I've got the paperwork." Her eyes narrowed, and she scoffed, a sound so dripping with disdain it could have curdled milk. "Paperwork? You think you can just waltz in here and rewrite the rules? This strip belongs to the HOA, and I'm the HOA." She turned to her audience, waving her arms like a conductor. "This man's trying to steal our community space." Mrs. Jenkins fidgeted, clearly uncomfortable, but Dave nodded like he was at a political rally. I could have laughed. Karen's logic was so flimsy it belonged in a cartoon, but the stakes were real. If she got the HOA board on her side, they could slap me with fines, legal fees, or worse, force me to tear down my gate. I wasn't about to let that happen. "Karen, let's settle this calmly," I said, setting my coffee down. "I'll show you the survey." She snorted. "Survey? You probably drew it with a crayon. I've been here 10 years. Buddy, I know this neighborhood better than you know your own name." That's when I knew reasoning was pointless. Karen wasn't here for facts. She was here for control. The strip of land was worthless, barely enough room for a picnic table, but to her, it was a kingdom, and I was the peasant staging a coup. I went inside, grabbed the folder with my deed and survey, and returned to find her ranting to Dave about newcomers ruining everything. Mrs. Jenkins looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Here," I said, holding up the survey. "This shows the property line. The strip is mine, clear as day." Karen snatched the papers, her eyes scanning them like she was deciphering ancient hieroglyphs. For a moment, I thought she'd back down. Then she tossed them back at me, pages fluttering to the ground. Fake, she declared. You think you can fool me with this nonsense? I'm calling the board, and we'll have this gate down by tomorrow. The audacity floored me. I'd dealt with difficult people before, but Karen was a force of nature, a hurricane of ego and bad faith. I picked up the papers, my patience thinning. Karen, you can call whoever you want. The county records back this up. You're wrong. Her face turned beet red, and she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her lavender perfume mixed with self-righteousness. Wrong. I'm never wrong. You'll regret crossing me. She stormed off, Dave trailing behind her, while Mrs. Jenkins mouthed a quiet, "I'm sorry," before scurrying away. The next week was a circus. Karen rallied the HOA board, a group of 5 retirees who seemed to live for petty drama. They sent me a letter demanding I remove the gate, citing community standards. I responded with a polite email, attaching the survey and deed, and offered to meet in person. No reply. Instead, Karen started a smear campaign. Notes appeared in neighborhood mailboxes, claiming I was a land thief trying to destroy our community. She even posted on the HOA's private Facebook group, complete with a blurry photo of my gate captioned, "This is what greed looks like." I wasn't surprised, but I was pissed. Rusty deserved his yard, and I wasn't about to let Karen's tantrum take it away. I called my lawyer friend, Mike, who laughed so hard he nearly choked when I told him the story. "She's got nothing," he said. "Take it to the board meeting. Show them the law." The HOA meeting was held in the community center, a beige room that smelled of stale coffee and bureaucracy. Karen sat at the head of the table, her clipboard a scepter, her smirk a crown. The board members, 3 men and 2 women, all looking like they'd rather be napping, listened as she launched into a tirade about my illegal gate. She painted me as a villain, a newcomer with no respect for tradition, and even threw in a jab about Rusty defiling the community garden. He'd peed on a rosebush once. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. I handed out copies of the survey, the deed, and a letter from the county confirming my property line. "This isn't about tradition," I said. "It's about facts. The land is mine. The gate stays." The room went quiet. Karen's smirk faltered, but she recovered quickly. "This is a setup," she cried. "He's forged these documents. I demand an investigation." One of the board members, a guy named Tom with a handlebar mustache, sighed. "Karen, the county stamp's right there. You can't argue with that." She sputtered, her face a storm cloud. "You're all spineless. This is our neighborhood." But the tide had turned. The board voted 4-1 to drop the issue, with Karen as the lone dissenter. She stormed out, muttering about lawyers and justice. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, I woke to find my gate vandalized, red spray paint scrawled with "thief" in shaky letters. Rusty was barking like mad, and Mrs. Jenkins was on her porch, looking guilty. I saw her. She whispered, "Karen, last night." She had a spray can. I called the police, more annoyed than angry. They took a report, but without hard evidence. It was my word against hers. Karen, of course, denied everything, claiming I was framing her to deflect from my crimes. But the neighborhood was done with her antics. Dave, of all people, admitted to seeing her near my gate that night. Mrs. Jenkins corroborated it. The HOA board, fed up with her reign of terror, voted to remove her as president. At the next meeting, Karen showed up anyway, uninvited, her muumuu a defiant flag. She tried to rally the crowd, but no one listened. Tom, now acting president, read a statement. Due to repeated violations of community standards, Karen is no longer welcome on the board. Her scream echoed through the room, a mix of rage and humiliation. You'll regret this, she shrieked, but the door slammed behind her. The neighborhood felt lighter, like a storm had passed. I fixed the gate, and Rusty got his yard back. Mrs. Jenkins started bringing me cookies, and even Dave nodded at me now and then. Karen moved away a month later. Her house sold to a young couple who actually waved hello. The strip of land, it's still mine, and the gate's still standing. Sometimes, justice doesn't need a gavel, just a few pieces of paper and a dog who knows his territory. Karen learned that the hard way, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't smile every time I locked that gate. The end.